Now we've got Trae Young and Ayo Dosunmu and a lot of pushing and shoving, and this thing got heated in a split second.
Trae Young just crossed a line that Ayo Dosunmu wasn't willing to let slide. What started as typical NBA trash talk turned into a full-blown confrontation that had teammates and coaches scrambling to separate the two players. Young did something during the fourth quarter that made Dosunmu absolutely lose it. And when you hear what actually happened, you'll understand exactly why things got so heated. Has anyone ever crossed a boundary with you that made you snap instantly? Comment below, because Dosunmu's reaction to what Trae Young did is something most people would completely relate to.
And that comes with playing cautious.
Post up for Jalen. Oh my! It's a very difficult shot. He and Buzelis have a little stare down.
All right, let's set the scene here. The Atlanta Hawks are playing the Chicago Bulls at State Farm Arena, and it's the fourth quarter. Ayo Dosunmu is coming off the court after Bulls head coach Billy Donovan decides to substitute him. Normal stuff, right? Player gets subbed out, heads to the bench, gets a drink, sits down. That's how it's supposed to go. But Trae Young apparently had other plans. As Dosunmu is walking toward the Bulls bench, Trae Young decides to say something to him. Again, not unusual. NBA players talk trash all game long. It's part of the culture. You score on someone, you talk. They score on you, they talk back. It's been happening since basketball was invented. Dosunmu himself said in the post-game interview that Young had been talking the whole game, and he was fine with that. But then Young took it a step further. He slapped Dosunmu on the butt as he was walking by, and that's when everything went sideways.
And Buzelis, and then Dosunmu and Trae, and they start pointing, and they are face to face.
Dosunmu did not take this well, at all. The reaction was immediate and intense. A heated scuffle erupted right there on the court, with teammates, coaches, and officials rushing in to separate the two players before things got completely out of hand. The whole scene was captured on video and immediately went viral on social media, because of course it did. Nothing says NBA drama like two players going at it during a game.
Boy, you wonder about Kobe White. As he came in off the sideline, he was getting ready to come into the game.
In the post-game interview, Dosunmu didn't hold back about what happened and why he reacted the way he did. His explanation was pretty straightforward and honestly, completely understandable. He said, "No man would like that. I mean, it's basketball. Anything on the court, I'm fine with it. He was talking the whole game. That's fine. I don't care about that. But once you touch, nah, that's when the line was crossed."
I'm guessing Chicago guys don't like to be patted on the ass when you're walking off the court, or
I would hope no man would like that.
was something said, or what happened?
No, I mean, it's basketball, so anything on the court, I'm fine with it.
Let's break that down for a second. Dosunmu is basically saying there are rules to this trash talk game. You can say whatever you want on the court. You can talk about someone's game, their stats, their mama, whatever. That's all fair game in the heat of competition. But physical contact that's not part of the actual game, that crosses a boundary. And specifically, slapping someone on the butt as they're walking away, that's disrespectful in a way that trash talk isn't. The quote that really sums it up is when Dosunmu said, "Don't slap Ayo on the ass. Ever. Never." That's pretty clear, right? There's no ambiguity there. That's a hard line, and Young stepped right over it.
And that was quickly separated. Tonight, now a little more personal.
Now, some people might think this is an overreaction. After all, butt slaps happen in sports all the time. Teammates do it to each other constantly as a form of encouragement or celebration. But here's the thing. Young and Dosunmu aren't teammates. They're opponents. And context matters. When your teammate gives you a pat on the butt after a good play, that's camaraderie. When an opponent who's been trash-talking you all game does it as you're leaving the court, that's something else entirely. That's disrespect disguised as a casual gesture. The fact that Young had been talking throughout the entire game adds another layer to this. Dosunmu was already dealing with Young's verbal trash talk for 4 quarters. He handled that fine. He said it himself, he didn't care about the talking. But after dealing with that for the whole game, having Young then put his hands on him was apparently the final straw. It's like Young was adding insult to injury, literally. And let's talk about the timing for a second. This happened as Dosunmu was being substituted out. He was heading to the bench. The play was over for him. He wasn't in Young's face. He wasn't engaging. He was just walking away. For Young to go out of his way to make contact at that moment makes it seem even more intentional and disrespectful. It wasn't heat of the moment during a play. It was a deliberate choice to follow Dosunmu and slap him as he was leaving. The video of this incident spreading like wildfire on social media shows just how much people were interested in this confrontation. NBA fans love drama, and this delivered. You had 2 players getting into it, teammates pulling them apart, coaches getting involved. It was a full scene. And then Dosunmu's post-game comments gave everyone the context they needed to understand exactly what happened and why. What's interesting is Dosunmu's distinction between what happens on the court and what crosses the line. He's not someone who's opposed to the physical nature of basketball. The guy plays 16 minutes, scores 6 points, dishes out 2 assists, grabs 2 rebounds. He's out there competing, getting physical with opponents, doing all the normal basketball stuff. But there's a difference between basketball contact and what Young did. Basketball contact is part of the game. What Young did was outside of that. Some people might argue that this is just Young being Young. The guy is known for his trash talk and his ability to get under opponents' skin. That's part of what makes him effective. He's not just beating you with his scoring and playmaking, he's messing with your head, trying to throw you off your game. And with 22 points and 15 assists in this game, he was clearly doing his job on the court. But there's a difference between effective trash talk and crossing personal boundaries. You can get in someone's head without putting your hands on them in a way they find disrespectful. Young has plenty of other tools in his arsenal to mess with opponents without resorting to physical gestures that are going to set people off. The fact that this happened during a loss for the Hawks makes it even more interesting. Atlanta lost this game 123-126, which was their 4th straight loss. They're sitting at 15-16, 9th in the Eastern Conference. Young had just come back from a sprained MCL injury, and the team was still struggling to find their rhythm. Maybe the frustration of losing was playing into Young's actions. Maybe he was trying to assert himself, to show that even in a losing effort, he could still get under the Bulls' skin. But whatever his motivation was, it backfired in terms of creating a bad look for himself. Dosunmu's response also tells you something about how players view respect in the NBA. These guys are professionals. They understand that trash talk is part of the game. They can handle someone saying anything to them on the court, but when it comes to physical contact that feels disrespectful or inappropriate, that's where the line is. And Dosunmu made it very clear that Young crossed that line. The immediate reaction from both teams to break up the scuffle shows that everyone recognized this had the potential to escalate quickly. In the modern NBA, you can't have players getting into actual fights. The consequences are too severe: suspensions, fines, damage to team chemistry. So coaches and teammates jump in immediately to prevent things from going too far. But the fact that it got to the point where people had to physically separate Dosunmu and Young shows just how angry Dosunmu was about what happened. What makes this whole situation even more frustrating from Dosunmu's perspective is that he was literally just trying to leave the court. He wasn't engaging with Young. He wasn't trying to continue any sort of back and forth. His coach had subbed him out. He was done with his minutes for that moment, and he was heading to the bench. For Young to follow him and make that gesture seems like it was specifically designed to provoke a reaction. And it worked. The viral nature of this incident also speaks to how much NBA fans are hungry for drama and authenticity. In an era where so many players are friends off the court, where they're doing podcasts together and hanging out in the off-season, genuine animosity and heated moments feel more rare. So when something like this happens, a real confrontation over a real boundary being crossed, people eat it up. The video got shared everywhere. Dosunmu's post-game comments got turned into clips and tweets, and everyone had an opinion about who was in the right. And honestly, most people seem to be siding with Dosunmu on this one. The general consensus seems to be that Young went too far, that the butt slap was disrespectful, and that Dosunmu had every right to be upset about it. Sure, there are always going to be people who think players are too sensitive or that this is much ado about nothing. But the majority of reactions seem to be, yeah, that's crossing a line, I'd be mad too. This incident also raises questions about what's acceptable in terms of opponent interaction during games. Obviously, the NBA isn't going to create a specific rule about butt slapping. That would be ridiculous. But players have their own unwritten codes about what's okay and what's not. And Young violated Dosunmu's code in a pretty blatant way. Whether Young cares about that or not is another question. Some players thrive on being the villain, on making opponents hate them. But there's usually a price to pay for that approach, whether it's getting targeted by opponents in future games or just dealing with the bad blood you've created.
Looking at the bigger picture, both teams were dealing with their own struggles at the time of this game. The Hawks were on a 4-game losing streak, trying to figure out how to incorporate Young back after his injury. The Bulls were fighting for positioning in a competitive Eastern Conference. Both teams needed wins, both teams were under pressure. So tensions were already high before Young decided to add fuel to the fire with his gesture toward Dosunmu. The fact that Young had been talking all game and Dosunmu had handled it fine shows that Dosunmu isn't someone who can't handle the mental side of basketball. He can deal with trash talk. He can handle someone trying to get in his head. But the physical aspect, specifically the way Young did it, was where he drew the line. And he made sure everyone knew exactly where that line was, both through his immediate reaction on the court and through his comments after the game. What happens next between these two players will be interesting to watch. Will this create ongoing beef every time the Bulls and Hawks play? Will Young back off, knowing that Dosunmu isn't going to tolerate that kind of behavior? Or will he double down, viewing Dosunmu's reaction as evidence that he got in his head? These are the kinds of storylines that make the NBA season more entertaining, even if they're born from moments that the players involved probably wish hadn't happened. The bottom line is this: Trae Young slapped Ayo Dosunmu on the butt while talking trash, and Dosunmu made it crystal clear that physical contact like that is absolutely not acceptable to him. The scuffle that followed was a direct result of Young crossing a boundary that Dosunmu had no interest in letting slide. And based on Dosunmu's post-game comments, this wasn't just heat-of-the-moment anger. It was a principled stance about respect and boundaries in professional basketball. Young learned the hard way that not every player is going to tolerate every form of gamesmanship, and sometimes you cross a line you didn't even know was there. Trae Young found out the hard way that there are boundaries even in the trash talk-heavy world of NBA basketball. Ayo Dosunmu made his position crystal clear. Talk all you want, but don't cross into physical disrespect. Whether this creates lasting beef between them remains to be seen. Hit that like button and subscribe for more NBA drama and analysis you won't find anywhere else.